On a quiet March night in 1990, while Boston slept, two men disguised as police officers walked into one of the most beautiful museums in America and committed the largest unsolved art heist in history. They didn't steal cash, they didn't touch jewelry. Instead, they targeted something far more valuable: masterpieces. Rembrandt, Vermeer, Degas, Manet, works worth over $500 million, gone in under 81 minutes. They cut priceless paintings from their frames, left the empty borders hanging on the walls, and vanished into the night. 34 years later, not a single piece has ever been recovered. This is the story of the Gardner Museum Heist and the mystery that still haunts the FBI. To understand this heist, you need to understand the place it happened and the woman who built it. Isabella Stewart Gardner was obsessed with beauty, art, culture, and mystery. In the late 1800s, she traveled the world collecting masterpieces, spending a fortune assembling one of the most unique private collections in America. Every room in her museum was arranged exactly the way she wanted it, not by themes, not by eras, but by feeling. Paintings hung beside tapestries, sculptures beside furniture, all placed with obsessive precision. And in her will, she left a strange instruction. Nothing, not a single object, could ever be moved or rearranged. If anything was removed or stolen, the empty space had to stay forever. Today, those empty picture frames still hang on the walls, silent reminders of the night everything changed. On the night of March 18, 1990, Boston was quiet. St. Patrick's Day celebrations had ended hours earlier. The streets were empty, and the Gardner Museum stood silent under a cold, misty sky. Inside the museum, two security guards worked the overnight shift, a job usually uneventful, routine, predictable. At 1:24 a.m., two men dressed as Boston police officers approached the museum's side entrance. They didn't knock, they didn't hesitate. They simply called out to the guards inside. "Police, we're responding to a disturbance." The guards buzzed them in, without verifying their badges, without checking dispatch, without questioning why officers would respond to a call they hadn't made. It was the first of many mistakes. The museum's alarm system should have triggered a lockout, but the thieves knew exactly how to exploit its weakest point. In an instant, the two fake officers stepped inside, and the heist of the century began. Seconds after stepping inside, the fake police officers made their move. One guard was ordered away from the desk, the other was told to step out from behind the counter. The men were calm, confident, not rushed, as if they had rehearsed every moment of what was about to happen. But the guards were about to learn the truth. These weren't police officers. The moment the guards stepped into the hallway, everything changed. One of the intruders grabbed the closest guard, forced his hands behind his back, and secured him with police-grade handcuffs. The second guard tried to react, but within seconds, he was overpowered too. Both were marched down into the museum's basement, a small, concrete utility room the thieves had already chosen as their holding area. The intruders taped the guards' ankles and wrists, covered their eyes, and cuffed them to a series of pipes along the wall. Then, without saying a word, they cut the phone lines. The museum was now completely isolated. With the guards restrained and communications disabled, the thieves had full control of the building. Their 70-minute window had begun. With the guards tied up in the basement and the museum completely isolated, the intruders made their way up the grand staircase toward the Dutch room. This was the heart of the collection, the room Isabella Stewart Gardner was most proud of. In the silence of the early morning hours, the thieves moved with purpose. They knew exactly what they were looking for. The first target was Rembrandt's only known seascape, the storm on the Sea of Galilee. They tried to lift the frame, but the painting refused to come free. So they did something unthinkable. They cut the canvas straight out of the frame, dragging the blade along the edges, peeling the masterpiece from its stretcher. The sound of tearing canvas echoed through the empty museum. Next was A Lady and Gentleman in Black, another Rembrandt. Same method, same precision, another priceless work sliced from its frame. They moved from artwork to artwork, rolling the canvases like posters, stuffing them into a large duffel bag. Then the thieves approached one of the most valuable pieces in the entire United States, Vermeer's The Concert. It vanished in seconds. Across the room, they shattered protective glass, removed a finial from a Napoleonic flag, and took 5 Degas sketches from a nearby cabinet. 13 works in total, more than $500 million in art, gone in less than an hour. And to this day, not a single piece has ever been recovered. With the Dutch room stripped and the thieves' bags filling with stolen masterpieces, the intruders moved deeper into the museum. Every step echoed across the marble floors, every shadow felt sharper, every second more dangerous. The men worked in perfect coordination. One led the way, another carried the rolled canvases, and a third scanned each hallway for motion sensors and patrol routes. They headed toward the museum's Blue Room, another gallery lined with rare artwork. In that room, the thieves removed a small self-portrait by Rembrandt, a piece so intimate and personal that historians consider it priceless. Then they made their way downstairs, moving silently past the abandoned security desk. The telephone lines were dead, the alarms disabled, the guards restrained. For the intruders, the escape route was wide open. They navigated a maze of corridors, service hallways, and stairwells, avoiding cameras they had already mapped weeks earlier. Their pace never broke, not rushed, not sloppy, just precise. By the time they reached the side exit, their bags were filled with 13 stolen works of art. Outside, the city was still asleep. And in less than 90 minutes, the largest art theft in modern history was complete. At exactly 2:45 a.m., the intruders carried the last of the stolen artwork down the museum's narrow service corridor. Their bags were heavy now, filled with rolled canvases, sketches, and priceless treasures. The building was silent. The guards were bound in the basement, the alarms were disabled, and the thieves had absolute control of every hallway they passed through. Moving with the same precision they had shown all night, the men retraced their route through the museum. Past empty galleries, past darkened stairwells, past the silent security desk. Outside, the night was still. Fog clung to the cobblestone street, and not a single car passed through the neighborhood. When the intruders reached their vehicle parked just outside the service entrance, there was no hesitation. In a practiced motion, the bags of stolen artwork were loaded into the back of the car. No alarms sounded, no lights flashed, no witnesses appeared. Within seconds, the car rolled away into the darkness, its headlights disappearing into the mist. And just like that, the men responsible for the greatest art heist in modern history vanished into the early morning. At 8:15 a.m., the day shift security guard arrived for work at the Gardner Museum. Everything seemed normal at first. The morning was quiet. The building looked undisturbed. But nothing inside the museum was normal. When the guard tried to reach the overnight shift, there was no answer. He checked the security desk. The monitors were frozen. The phone line was dead. Then he noticed something even stranger. The basement door was propped open. Inside, in a small concrete utility room, the 2 overnight guards were found bound, blindfolded, and handcuffed to pipes. They had been restrained for nearly 7 hours. As police arrived on scene, they made their way through the museum and quickly realized the scale of what had happened. Frames were hanging empty, glass was shattered, canvases were missing, entire walls had been stripped bare. 13 works of art worth more than $500 million had vanished. And the thieves who stole them were long gone. When Boston police arrived, they had no idea what they were walking into. At first, officers thought the guards had staged the break-in themselves. But when they searched the museum, the truth became impossible to deny. 13 masterpieces were gone. Not just paintings, but history. A Vermeer, 3 Rembrandts, a Degas, a Manet, a rare bronze eagle. Empty frames still hung on the walls, as Gardner's will required. The thieves hadn't just stolen art, they had carved pieces out of humanity's shared memory. Within hours, the FBI arrived, staring at one of the most devastating crime scenes in American history. There were no fingerprints, no alarms, no witnesses, no suspects. Just silence and the outlines of paintings that would likely never be seen again. By the afternoon of the heist, the FBI had taken full control of the investigation. They began with the basics: who knew the guards' schedules, who had access to the building, who understood the museum's alarm system. Agents studied the security footage frame by frame, but the tapes revealed almost nothing. The intruders had moved carefully, avoiding every functioning camera and disabling the ones they couldn't. So investigators turned to the list of suspects. First were the guards themselves. The overnight watchman had buzzed the thieves inside without checking their identification, a mistake so unusual that agents initially considered him a prime suspect. But after hours of questioning, his story held. Then, the FBI focused on known art thieves, organized crime figures, and groups capable of pulling off a heist of this scale. Tips flooded in from across the country. Everyone wanted to claim they knew who took the paintings, but every lead collapsed. Witness statements contradicted each other, phone records went nowhere, and every suspect denied involvement. Within weeks, the investigation reached a standstill. There were no ransoms, no demands, no communication from the thieves. It was as if the paintings had simply vanished. As the investigation dragged on, agents built a list of suspects that read like a crime novel. Art thieves, mob associates, drug traffickers, career burglars, and men who had bragged, at the wrong time, to the wrong people. But none of them could be tied directly to the museum. The FBI's first major theory focused on the Boston Mafia. Several known associates matched the behavior, skill, and brutality of the crime. One informant claimed the paintings had been traded for drugs. Another claimed they were buried in a barn. A third insisted they had been smuggled overseas, sold quietly through black market art dealers. But every tip collapsed. No painting ever resurfaced. No ransom note arrived. And no suspect ever confessed. Then came a new theory, one that investigators still consider possible: that the heist was an inside job. Someone with knowledge of the guards, the cameras, the blind spots, the schedules. Someone who knew exactly how to walk in and exactly how to walk out. But even that theory hit a wall. Every suspect denied involvement, and without the paintings, there was no proof. Weeks turned into months, and the investigation began to slow. The FBI continued to search for the paintings, following leads across Boston, New York, Philadelphia, Miami, even Europe. Every time a new tip came in, agents hoped it would finally break the case. But one by one, each lead collapsed. A claimed sighting in Europe turned out to be a copy. A supposed buyer in Florida vanished. A tip from a prison informant fell apart the moment agents checked the details. For the first time, investigators realized they were dealing with something far more complicated than an art theft. This wasn't a smash and grab. It was a disappearance. Months became years. The frames stayed empty. The walls stayed bare. And the trail slowly went cold. Every expert agreed if the paintings weren't recovered within the first decade, they might never be seen again. As the years passed, the Gardner heist became something more than a crime. It became a legend. Rumors spread across Boston, then across the country, then around the world. Every few months, someone claimed to know where the paintings were. A collector in Japan, a broker in Brazil, a fisherman in Ireland who insisted he had seen the Vermeer in a private yacht. None of it was real. Other tips were darker. Anonymous calls claiming the paintings were being held as collateral by criminal groups. A letter suggesting one of the stolen works had been burned in a house fire. Another claiming that the Rembrandts had been cut into pieces so they could be sold individually on the black market. Every tip sent investigators into a new spiral of hope, only to end with another dead end. Years turned into decades. The museum offered rewards. The FBI reopened the case multiple times. Dozens of suspects came and went, but the truth never surfaced. No painting ever came home. No thief ever stepped forward. And for more than 30 years, the world has been chasing shadows. More than 30 years have passed since the Gardner heist, and not a single stolen painting has been found. But investigators haven't stopped searching. Today, only 3 theories remain. The first theory claims the artwork is still hidden, locked away by members of organized crime. Several pieces of evidence point to this possibility. Informants over the years described seeing rolled canvases packed inside climate-controlled basements, private homes, and warehouse lockers. But none of these claims could be verified. The second theory suggests the paintings crossed oceans. Experts believe the masterpieces may have been smuggled overseas, traded quietly through private brokers and black market dealers. If that happened, the paintings could now be anywhere: Europe, the Middle East, South America, or locked inside the vaults of wealthy private collectors. This theory explains one disturbing detail: not a single painting has ever re-entered the legitimate art market. The third theory is the most controversial. Some investigators believe the paintings were stolen to order. A private collector, someone with deep pockets, and the power to hide 13 missing masterpieces indefinitely. It would explain the precision of the heist. It would explain the silence. It would explain the absolute disappearance. But after decades of searching, no theory has ever produced a single recovered artwork. The Gardner thieves may be gone, but the paintings, their fate remains unknown. Today, more than 30 years after the heist, the empty frames still hang on the walls of the Gardner Museum. They remain exactly where Isabella Stewart Gardner ordered them to stay, silent placeholders for the art she loved. Visitors walk past them every day. Some stop and stare, trying to imagine the masterpieces that once filled those spaces. Others never notice them at all. But for the museum, for the city of Boston, and for investigators who have dedicated their careers to this case, those frames are a reminder of something unfinished, a story without a final chapter, a question without an answer. 13 works of art, taken in the dark, carried through silent hallways, and never seen again. Maybe they'll return one day. Maybe they're gone forever. But until the truth surfaces, the Gardner Museum will continue to wait, and the empty frames will remain exactly where they've always been, holding the space for what was lost and for what the world still hopes to find.